Good morning. This is Heidi Cooper of Torah Family Living. Today, I'd like to share some of my journal with you. Sometimes we go through some rough spots in life and they can be really faith stretching. And especially if you're an introvert like me, it can be helpful to have a way to process and record what you're learning or struggling with in times like this. So let me take a peek inside here. This is a traveler's notebook. I really like this size and style of a traveler's notebook. It just works really well. All right, so here is my Stickler's notebook. Stickler's is the syndrome that I have that affects my joints, as many of you know. And I started this a while ago before I knew I was going to have a hip replacement. So it kind of took on a mind of its own. But I'd like to take a peek inside and show you just some ideas on how journaling can help you when you're going through a time like getting ready for surgery or something like that. So first, like I said, I started this before I knew I was going to have a hip replacement. And I started by finding quotes that meant a lot to me. For example, this one by Elizabeth Elliot. We are meddling with God's business when we let all manner of imaginings loose, predicting disaster, contemplating possibilities, instead of following, one day at a time, God's plan and simple pathway. And then I journaled on my thoughts on that in my specific situation. Here I did some more. And then I also just did this is what happened today. I had an appointment and here's my thoughts on it. I use a date stamp. I love helping keep track of when things are happening. I did just some decorations to make it pretty. Again, here's some journaling on what was happening. Down here, my husband said something really sweet and I wanted to record it to remember what he did. So I wrote that in there. I cut some paperwork out of my my medical paperwork and glued it in there. My exercise log. Verses. Here's a sticker. I copied a lot of verses in that meant a lot to me as I went through this journey. For example, here's a passage from 2 Corinthians, and again, my thoughts on it. It was talking about delighting in weaknesses and insults and distresses and persecutions and calamities, for when I am weak, then I am strong. And I wrote, I don't think I'm at the point where I delight in calamity, but I have to believe that God is using sticklers in my life to make me what he wants me to be. And he helps me on that journey. See, as you're working through these things, recording them helps you kind of process it. And doing it in writing gets it out of your head. I know if you're like me, as an introvert, my head is very full and it helps to get stuff down on paper and process it. Otherwise, I feel like I'm trapped in my head. So that can be a very helpful thing to do. I often find things, little thoughts on Facebook, or this is a quote from a book, that were helpful and encouraging to me. So I copied them down. This is what they call a tip-in, and on the back was some more personal journaling. I didn't, maybe people are looking in my book sometimes, and I didn't want that to pop out per se. Underneath it, though, something that I found helpful, I was really struggling with my identity, like feeling like a failure sometimes because, I had to have surgery. I wrote down a whole bunch of, this is what I am, and I'm not defined by having to have surgery. There's a lot of things about me, made me a cool person, as it were, and it helps to get the right perspective and use scripture to help you to do that. Oh, this was a fun page. Mr. Rogers' quote, look for the helpers. You will always find people helping. I actually got signatures from quite a few people, nurses, my doctor. That was great. Song lyrics can be a helpful thing to put in your journal. This is Lauren Daigle, Trust in You. I copied the lyrics down because that was a very meaningful song to me as I prepared for surgery. That's a great idea to add. Again, just journaling. This is kind of what is happening. This is where I'm at right now. And it isn't always pretty. And that's okay, because this journal is to help you to process what you're going through. And sometimes it is going to be a little bit ugly. Here I included some drawings from my children. You can see they drew my artificial hip in there, and I wanted to remember that. So that was encouraging to me because I actually took this journal with me to the hospital. So I could look at these things and be encouraged that my kids were thinking of me. And here's some more of their drawings. This was fun. If you're struggling with whatever it might be, a physical problem, whatever, I actually wrote a breakup letter with my hip. It kind of helped me to remember why I was going through surgery, and what I would be getting rid of in my life and what I would be gaining. So sometimes being a little creative in your journaling and writing something like that can be helpful to process things. Again, more verses. Always good to put verses in your journal because that helps you to be filling your mind with truth. And that's so important when you're dealing with something that is stretching you, as it were, and helping you to grow. It may not seem like it's helping you to grow at the time, but if we can keep that perspective in our minds, it can be helpful as we're facing things that are difficult. Here I wrote some journaling on the Torah portion for that week that had to do with what I was struggling with at the time. So even things like the Torah portion can be a great inspiration for writing down your thoughts and helping you, again, to process. I found a little trick. I figured out how to print off my phone. Someone shared this verse mem with me on my Torah Family Living page, and it was a blessing to me. So I printed it right off my phone and glued it in my journal. So I'll probably do a video to show you how to do that because it's a great thing to be able to print off these verse mems right off your phone and put them in. I got a thank you card. Little things like that, little mementos can be helpful to include. And then, oh, this was sweet. While I was in the hospital, my husband was at home taking care of the kids, but he, every time I accomplished something, like I got out of bed or made it to PT and did good, he would send me cute little things, emojis on my phone. So I actually printed one of them off to remember that. It's important to put positive things in here as you're working through something difficult, because those things can bring a smile to your face. And you want to remember those, because if it was a blessing to you at the time, it should be recorded. So that's the end of my journal for right now. But I just want to encourage you, again, especially if you're an introvert or if writing helps you, to keep a journal and make it fun and visual like this. You see, I put a lot of stickers and washi tape in it. Because again, it helps you to get out of your head and to process things. And then it's easier, especially if you're copying verses and such, it's easier to see Yah's hand in what's going on in your life. And it's easier to trust him because you can see it in front of you. It's not just some ethereal thoughts in your head. So I strongly encourage you to do this. Sorry about that. I lost my train of thought. To build your faith, to work through things and to see how Yah is working in your life. I would love for you to share any ideas you have for being able to process and go through things, especially, like I said, as an introvert, because we spend so much time in our heads, it's important to be able to get things down and out. So thank you so much for taking a little peek through my Stickler's journal here. I hope it's a blessing to you. And if you are struggling through something right now, my prayers are with you. And I hope this is a helpful way for you to get through whatever it is you're going through. So thank you very much. My website is www.torahfamilyliving.com.